Good afternoon. So today we are going to speak about pan-European investment and how venture capital coordinate each other to cover the continent. When people ask me what has changed dramatically in the last years in the VC scheme, is that Europe has become a global landscape for investment. So I would like to welcome Julie from Infravia. Ignacio Moro from Extension Fund. And Thomas Pacinda from Kaya Capital. Okay, guys, thank you very much for coming. You can sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to start, a very quick introduction on what you guys do, and on yourselves as well.
Should I start?
Yes,
Please, go ahead.
So hello everyone, my name is Julie. So as you can hear, I'm from France. I work at Infravia Growth, which is a B2B tech-focused growth fund with 500 million under management. We invest in B2B tech businesses, raising their Series B and following rounds across Europe, basically. Great to meet you all.
I'm Ignacio. It's great to be here. I work at Extension Fund, which is a Spanish hybrid fund, hybrid in a way that we invest both with equity in early stages and with debt in later stages. And we have three main sector focus, which are fintech, insurtech, and e-commerce.
I'm Thomas. I'm from Kaya VC. We are early stage investor based out of Prague, although we do have one partner in London. I would tend to say we are generalists, although there are some verticals toward which we build our affinity, like health tech, fintech, or anything related to retail.
Okay, good. So, well, as I said at the beginning, when people ask me, which exciting trend are you looking right now that is changing in the VC ecosystem? And I said, look, Europe is not anymore a bunch of countries, it's the same place. So investors has become global, and they are moving around, they're doing a lot of things, a lot of investments outside their core geography. But the thing is, how? So you can be very big and you can have like local offices, but unless you are in that position, you need to have more creative ways. How do you guys do in order to source opportunities in these places outside of your own geography?
Well, so I think it depends on the stage you operate in, but at our stage, so Series B and following rounds, I think you have two main sources. It's either you know the team from before, you've already been in touch and you keep in touch basically, and when they fundraise next, they call you and they're like, okay, do you want to have a look? We know each other for a long time, so let's work together maybe. Or the other one would be network, like, you know, existing investors, like earlier stage funds, Series A or seed funds, that, you know, share their portfolio companies. When they're raising, they call you and you're like, look, I have this portfolio company. I think there is a good fit between you two. Do you want to have a look? And then you have a look. And so we now have 7 portfolio companies. I would say 2 of them, we knew the team from before, so from our previous jobs, for instance. One, we got the intro from one fund that was investing in the round and looking for a co-investor. And the other ones were all like existing investors, you know, like Series A or seed funds, just sharing their portfolio companies, basically.
For us at Extension, it's something similar as well. We like to co-invest with other funds, so we try to develop very strong relationships with funds, either here in Spain or in other parts of Europe, no? And I would just add, no, that it's as venture capital is, it's a business of people, no, and you need to build that trust between not only with entrepreneurs and the startups, but also with the funds you are co-investing with, and that takes time to begin with, and then you start sharing. Now, in my experience, when we started looking at startups from other venture capital, so from other funds, you start looking and they start sharing their portfolio companies. No? And as that evolves and the trust evolves in that relationship, you start seeing deals they're going to make, no? And you're able to co-invest in the same round. No? So I think it's a matter of being very proactive and in the relationships with other funds as well.
I think you guys covered all the usual channels already. But I would say, in general, for us, the best source of deal flow is our founders and their network. Obviously, it's the best reference we can get. And if you already invested in geography, which is still slightly new for us, we tend to work with our portfolio companies and founders and try to understand what are the trends in the ecosystem and what are the moving parts. So that's something I would add. And what's probably accelerated with COVID as well is technology. You know, you may have different tools, kind of like scrapers to understand what's going on and search companies based on technology. So I would say this is a big different thing than it used to be 2-3 years ago.
Okay. Do you guys have any kind of preference for what is the local investor or the co-investor that you like to co-invest with in these kind of deals?
I think, I mean, Julie touched a very good point there, no? And it's usually when you share some kind of thesis, no? And it's either like a stage thesis, because it's also a seed or early stage investor. So you have, or you look at the same risk taking opportunities, and you share some kind of thesis there, and also sector, no? Sector focus. I think for us, it's very relevant to co-invest with, or it's very value add when you co-invest with an investor that's specialized in a specific sector, no? Because they have a very granular knowledge of the market, of their local markets, especially when you're a foreign investor investing there, and market dynamics, which you were saying before. Now Europe is much more mature now, and it's much more one big ecosystem, no? But there's still market dynamics that are different, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Ignacio. It's primarily about expertise that we see that other funds developed over the years, which you can tell based on their portfolio and previous deals. And then it depends on the stage. So there are funds that are great from phase that I would call 10 to 30, and then there are others that are great from 30 to 100. And last but not least, there are some funds still with great and strong local presence, which is also still a differentiator to me.
Okay. What about in terms of, because you brought an interesting point, which is about expertise, and I'm thinking on what you can bring and the kind of value add that you can bring to the companies. Typically, it's very different whether you are investing into your geography, where the value add can be in a way, but if you are doing that outside there, it can be different. How much it changes in your case? I mean, how much the value add that you bring to the companies changes between investing in your own geography or investing outside? Do you add the same value? Is it different, and how?
Yeah, I may start. I think in general, when you are investing within, let's say, your local home turf, you can be much more hands-on as an investor. You can meet in person, let's say, on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, and pretty much help to solve various type of problems. I would say that when you are in different geography, it's primarily about strategic moves or bold moves where you can, let's say, help companies to be on the rails and help them to go through these strategic decisions, which can be about entering new market, strategic hires, or potentially even some mergers, acquisitions, and stuff like that. That would be my view.
I tend to agree with Tomas. I think it's very relevant to have a foot in the ground in the relationship with your portfolio companies. And I think the most relevant value add you can add when you're in the same market, it's one, identifying certain risks that operate in market dynamics, opportunities, as he was mentioning, and also recruiting and talent. No, I think, I mean, at least for us, we have much more deeper network here in Spain than we do abroad, or in other markets, and that's something that we wish to put in value for our portfolio companies.
So in your case, entrepreneurs should speak with you if they are trying to come to Spain or to Prague. So it's like a local expertise, right?
I think so, no?
Yeah, I think partially it can be about local expertise, which is more, I would say, on the sales strategy. So I can imagine a team from Spain trying to enter Poland as the biggest market out of CEE in our case, and we can obviously help with this kind of commercial expansion. But second is also, again, expertise of the VC. So, if you have VC already experience with, I don't know, fintech or health tech, then obviously I would say there are similar growth strategies that can be applied globally, right? So it doesn't matter if you apply them within your local market or anywhere in the world.
Okay. Julie, when an entrepreneur should call you?
Yeah, I think once again it's a bit different depending on the stage. Like for us, I would say our key USP is that we have one partner that is fully dedicated to making some qualified introductions to the right people at C-level in large corporates, mostly in France. So for French companies, it's quite powerful to, let's say, strengthen their leadership in France. But for foreign companies, it's even more interesting because if they want to expand to France, then it's, opening the doors to a few large clients. So it's mostly relevant for companies targeting enterprise, right? SMBs, we have other introductions, but so for large corporates, it's quite interesting. So it's kind of the same, value, but not at the same stage, I would say. And so this is the key thing. And then, so as you mentioned, on recruiting, it can be interesting, but also, for like country opening, like finding, like a GM in France or helping a French company to launch, I don't know, the UK or whatever. As you are investing, in several countries, you also have a network in other geographies. So if we have a French company willing to launch, like let's say London, we can help him find someone, a GM or head of sales or whatever. So I would say the added value is the same, but the way you help companies is different, whether it's a local business or a foreign business you are trying to bring in your country, I would say.
Okay, so if they want to go to France, you are the ones.
Well, yeah, for business development, I think we are, what we do basically is after we invest, we set up a workshop with the entrepreneurs and we're like, okay, what are the key targets in France? And we try to find the best way in, basically. So I think it's quite interesting for entrepreneurs.
Do you have an idea on what's the best syndicate arrangement for a startup that's raising money? I mean, which kind of mix between local investor and international investors? When should they focus on bringing international investors at the beginning or more at the growth stage? And how should they do that? Should they start securing a very strong local and he should call the others, or they should outreach you directly? What do you think is the best strategy?
I think it depends on the plan of the company. If the plan is to, go wide and open as many countries at the same time, then you need to find investor that can help you move quickly abroad, and then you need to find someone abroad, basically, or at least that can help you with that. If you want to win your local market and then, go deep in the market and then expand, I think the best way to win a market is to have someone to help you on the ground. As they mentioned, it's always easier to help an entrepreneur when you can meet him on a daily basis, him or her, but when you can meet them on a daily, weekly basis, and you have your network, the deepest network you have is in your town, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's always easier. So I wouldn't say there is one proper strategy. I think it depends on the businesses. I think also depends if it's like, B2C or B2B, it's not the same, go to market and so on. But overall, I think in general, as you grow, you need to diversify your investor base as much as possible, because every, type of investors have, different added value, and you need to find the best mix between someone making introductions, someone helping you with recruiting, someone helping you with, finding your next stage investor, someone just, helping, in, I don't know, M&A and post-merger integrations. So at each stage of your development, you have, new problems to solve, kind of, and I think you need to find a proper investor for that. And I think your investor base is the best, way to find someone that can help you with the new issue, I would say.
So you would say that the best advice is to be strategically, think on what you want to build, and then make the right syndicate case by case.
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I would tend to agree. I mean, it's always best case to start with local VCs. You, as a founders, I mean, they need someone like their buddy in their early days. There are so many things they want to discuss and address. For instance, setting up the ESOP structure and all these kind of similar topics. It's like first time topic for first time founders. So it's super important to have someone who can discuss this with you and solve those things with you. But also from investors' perspective, I would say, when you are in a Series A and you don't have a single local VC in the cap table, it may look strange to some of the VCs, the question I will be asking in the Series A, so what do I miss, if there is no single local VC in the cap table? So
Okay. Do you have, I mean, can you share with us some of your experiences when investing outside? And I would ask you to put a good example, a success case and a not so successful case, just to figure out which kind of things can make the trigger and which one are the ones that entrepreneurs should avoid.
It's a difficult one.
Yes, I mean,
This one was not in the list.
from extension, we've been investing in locally in Spain from this first fund, and I mean, our view is to invest from foreign funds abroad. But I guess that it's super relevant. I think, I mean, subscribing what they were both saying before, it's very relevant to have an international syndicate once a company is in Series A forward. And that's going to help the company succeed in many levels, no? As they were mentioning, no? In terms of opening new markets, in terms of we are in Europe, no? And there's differences and singularities in every market, especially in regulation, no? In sectors like fintech or insurtech or other kind of sectors. So I think that building that international syndicate from an early stage, it's very relevant for the future success of the company.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it starts with investment thesis that you have, at the point when you are investing, and understanding what's going to be your value add as a VC. And I think if you address this kind of question within the, let's say, investment decision and understanding what is the risk I'm going to eliminate within the current round, I think if you answer this correctly, then definitely the chances to succeed is higher. And I would say, for instance, this could be, without mentioning any companies, something that I remember from our portfolio.
And something relevant as well, I think it's diversity, no? Diversity within funds and also within partners, no? And with partners, I mean investors in your company, no? And it's good to have different views, no? And I think that geographic differentiation brings different views as well in market trends and also in execution, no?
I think taking the questions a bit differently and not talking about, like a specific investment in a specific company, but just, talking about investing in foreign countries or abroad, let's say. You have very different, let's say, cultures and way of approaching business in depending on countries. So, in the beginning, we're discussing about how to find deals abroad, and we were saying that network and intros from existing VCs were the most powerful way in. I would say in some countries it's not always the case. Like for instance, I can think about Germany or the Nordics, where if you're not on the ground, like during COVID, basically, where you can't travel, basically, it's very difficult to find interesting opportunities and to have the people on the ground think about you. Whereas if you're, like talking about Spain or the UK, or at least maybe that's my personal experience, but or even Eastern Europe, like it's easier to get introductions and like engage with them. But I would say some geographies are more, like intuitu personae. If you meet people, they will remember you. But if you're not actually on the ground, it's way more difficult.
So you would say that there are some countries where having a local presence is mandatory, others that not. And if that's the case, what are you doing in those countries? Are you simply delaying them, or do you think it's still interesting to source opportunities there?
No, I think it's super interesting, but I mean the issue was we couldn't travel for the past 2 years, so it was difficult to get there. So we are just starting to travel again and just putting the countries on the go-to list, but then you need to catch up on 2 years of traveling, so it's more difficult. But no, definitely the goal is to go there more often and like I was mentioning in the beginning, build relationships with people on the ground and get to know each other and build a trust relationship, and then you just share deal flow. And what we do is when we get deals too early for us, we are happy to make some intros to earlier stage funds, and then we build a relationship like that. And on the other hand, they also send either deals that are too late for them or their portfolio companies, basically.
Okay. Are you guys planning on doubling down on some of these geographies and at some point build a local presence or build a dedicated fund to those geographies? Or you simply will keep doing the things the same way, trying to go more towards remote deals and keeping the same pace that you already started?
Yeah, I would say, especially for geographies, having more than one significant hub, so geographies with 3 and more cities, it would make sense for VCs to build their local presence and have like local on-the-ground person to scout the opportunities, because simply, even from, as Julie said, it's not so easy to travel still these days, and if you have to cover like, even in Spain, 4 or 5 cities, you cannot do it very easily out of Prague, just being very honest with you, but maybe you can easily cover Barcelona out of Prague, and I think the same goes for Romania these days in our region, having already 3 strong hubs, and we could probably name more and more countries like that. So that would be kind of like my view.
I tend to agree. Maybe in some also very competitive markets like the UK, where it's very tough to get into deals, into very exciting deals, it makes sense to have a local presence. And also, good strategy is to have scouters, in different geographies, that they do not necessarily work for the fund, but with you have a relationship and you share some economics when they bring interesting deals to the company.
Mm-hmm.
I think on our end, I mean, we have a team in Paris, and I think it's easier for us to work all together from Paris because it's easier, to work together as a team when you're on the same, let's say, office. But what we do is we often travel to, cover Europe, basically. So in the short term, I would say, doubling down on the geo would mean just, go there more often. Wouldn't mean necessarily, just finding someone and just putting someone there on the ground that would, have to work remotely and basically be over the phone or Zoom or Teams or whatever, every week. Because in the end, if you put someone on the ground, they will have to come to Paris for like investment committees or you do everything remotely. So all in all, it's always a trade-off, and I think right now we wouldn't send like doubling down people on the ground, but just go there more often from France.
So you will not move to London yet, right?
Not yet, no. I
Okay.
just relocated from London. So.
Okay. So thank you very much, guys, for your participation. I hope this has served for entrepreneurs to have a better idea on the value that this pan-European these pan-European syndicates can bring to their company. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
all
Thank you
for
for
being
having
Thank you
here.
very much.
Thanks.